Benazir Bhutto has been assassinated. All I could think about today, on top of trying to sort it out the best I could as a U.S. citizen involved in global madness that is our lot right now, all I could think of was the assassination of the Austrian Archduke Ferdinand and the events that transpired. Was he Serbian or Austrian? I think he was Austrian. And the events that transpired after his assassination, leading to World War I, which led to World War II, which led to on and on and on. World War II actually was Act II of the war to end all wars. The assassination of Benazir Bhutto has been about the only story out there today, and for once I tend to agree with the supervising producers and editors in television who decided to make this the number one story, because the implications of this are unknowable right now, but they will be profoundly important to us. Oh, good evening. This is the Malloy program on the Nova M Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in. Sir David Frost, who hosts a program called Frost Over the World. It's a current affairs program broadcast on Al Jazeera Television Network, the English language section. And it comes from London. David Frost interviewed former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto on November 2nd, not 2 months ago, about who she thought was behind the deadly bombing of her convoy when she arrived in Karachi, Pakistan in October. That was the first assassination attempt against her. In that attempt, of course, you remember, over 100 people died and scores were wounded. I want to play that for you right now because I want you to hear this interview. There's a twist in it that I think you'll find astonishing. Listen to this.
I wrote to General Musharraf. I received information from General Musharraf that a friendly country had passed on to them the information that I could be attacked by a gang from the Afghan warlord Baitullah Masood, or by Hamza bin Laden, the son of Osama bin Laden, or by the Pakistani Taliban in Islamabad, or by a group in Karachi. So I sent back a letter saying that while these groups may be used, I thought it was more important to go after the people who supported them, who organized them, who could possibly be the financiers or the organizers of the finance for those groups. And I named 3 individuals who I thought were their sympathizers. Now I understand that I could be wrong and my suspicions could be misplaced, but these are the people that I suspect want to stop the restoration of democracy. They want to stop my return because they know in 1993, when Pakistan was on the brink of being declared a terrorist state, I stopped the rise of terrorism, and they know that I can do it again.
In terms of these 3 people that you mentioned, were they members of or associated with the government?
Yes, well, one of them is a very key figure in security. He's a former military officer. He is someone that has had dealings with Jaish-e-Mohammed, one of the banned groups, with Maulana Azhar, who was in an Indian jail for decapitating 3 British tourists and 3 American tourists. And he also had dealings with Umar Sheikh, the man who murdered Osama bin Laden. Now I know that having dealings with people does not necessarily mean direct evidence, but I also know that internal security has totally collapsed in Pakistan, and that internal security cannot collapse without there being some blind eye, if not collusion, being turned to the rise of the militants and militancy.
Now, you may have heard it, but in case you didn't, We want to play this little bit of audio again, and I want you to hear it one more time.
And he also had dealings with Omar Sheikh, the man who murdered Osama bin Laden.
The man who murdered Osama bin Laden. What? Can you do it one more time, Kathy? The man who murdered Osama bin Laden. Now, who's this coming from? Is this coming from a caller to this program? No. Is it coming from me? No. Is it coming from a talk show host? No. Who's it coming from? It's coming from a woman who arguably knew more about the events, the intrigues, the politics, the lies, the deceits in that part of the world than any other human on earth, and was willing to talk about it. One more time.
And he also had dealings with Omar Sheikh, the man who murdered Osama bin Laden.
The man who murdered Osama bin Laden. The man who murdered Osama bin Laden. Do you understand what the now dead Benazir Bhutto said? I mean, it takes a second to sink in. You want to think to yourself, well, the tape has been doctored. No, it hasn't. We went to Al Jazeera and looked at it. You can tell by the way her mouth moves. For some reason, it just blew right by David Frost. But there sat 7 weeks ago, Benazir Bhutto talking about the man who murdered Osama bin Laden. Now, to the events of today. This raises the question, does it not, as to who was behind her assassination. She named 3 or 4 different groups that she felt were direct threats to her. People connected to the ISI, the Secret Service in Pakistan. Musharraf himself. But there's one element that she left out, and that would be people in the West who do not want to see Musharraf gone. He's very easy to deal with. We have multi-billion-dollar investment in him. No wonder Bush keeps saying Musharraf is such a strong ally in the war on terror. Maybe Musharraf's people have already murdered Osama bin Laden. And if that's true, if Benazir Bhutto was telling the truth, obviously the Bush crime family is aware of it. Now, interestingly, this piece of video, and it's a 17-minute long interview with David Frost. It's out there. It's available. In all the coverage today, on all the cable networks, on the over-the-air networks, everywhere, and I will guarantee you tomorrow in the Times and the Post, there will not be a mention of this bit of tape. What Benazir Bhutto said to David Frost November 6th last, in referencing one of the people she thought might be after her, to kill her, the man who murdered Osama bin Laden. The man who murdered Osama bin Laden. Are there 2 Osama bin Ladens? Is she referring to someone else? Astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. But if Catherine Bay, who produces the Malloy program on the Nova M radio network, that is a startup, if she can find that piece of audio, don't you think that the big shots at ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, or CNN also might have found that and played that bit today, or part of it? Or if not today, that interview was conducted November 6th. So what has been the decision by all the the assignment editors and the supervising producers and the network heads? This is David Frost. This is Benazir Bhutto. So what sort of a decision was made to totally, when someone is assassinated like this, every single piece of audio or video is dragged out because the network heads know they have got to fill, especially on cable television, hours upon hours on Benazir Bhutto in this case, on her life, on her death, on the possibilities. Did no one hear this bit of tape today? We'll be back after the break. I'm Mike Malloy.
Hypocrites and liars,
the quality of mercy is not
senators and lawyers,
the quality of mercy is not